I want you to just share what I'm sharing here and why I think a lot of people miss Palantir. Most people will look at what's called pricing metrics, which is a reference to the price. So something like price to earnings. If we look at Palantir, it's at 234. Very expensive indeed. No one can argue that. That is expensive. People look at price to sales, and we have the comparative of S&P 500, which is at 3. Palantir is close to 40. Very expensive. Price to free cash flow, 130. Very expensive. Like, even if you do it on an EV basis where they have no debt and a lot of cash, still looks expensive. Now, pricing metrics, they have this flaw of being a representation of either the trailing 12 months or forward looking of 1 or 2 periods. And for a company like Palantir that has most of their growth in the terminal area, meaning far out into the future, you're never going to get a company like Palantir to trade cheap, or what you would consider like, okay, it's trading fair on a pricing basis. And that's why most people miss it. And I hear it time and time again that, well, you can't do a valuation on a company like Palantir that's growing a lot. I'm like, you totally can. That's the way I make sense of Palantir. As long as you understand the business and you can tell the story, then you definitely can value any business. And I think a lot of people just focus on pricing metrics, like price to sales of close to 40. No way I'm going to pay that. Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's why a lot of people miss Palantir.
So here's the question now, based on all of us saying, yes, this unlimited TAM is justifying momentum. Would you buy Palantir right now at $40? Do you feel comfortable, as people that have been in the stock for a couple of years, saying, hey, this is not just crazy momentum that's driving it, this is like still undervalued over the long term?
Yeah, I bought on Monday.
No, but buying at 40, not at 37.9, at 40.
You know, the thing you're missing with that is that you need to weigh it against other opportunities in the market. Like we're not living in a...
No, but let's assume there's no... you don't think of any other...
If Palantir is the only stock available, then I would still be comfortable buying at 40, yeah.
Matt?
I think it depends on the individual. Me, that has like a 10 to 20-year time horizon on the opportunity, I would say at least dabble and start to get your feet wet. You can only guarantee what the price is today, and the price is 40. You know, it could be 35 tomorrow, but you can't guarantee that, right? So, you know, it might not necessarily be jumping both feet into the pool, but if you're looking 10 years, 20 years down the road, and you're thinking that this has the opportunity to be up there with the giants, Microsoft, Google, you know, those kind of Magnificent Seven type companies, and has the ability to continue to grow into the $200-300 billion market cap, if not more, sort of time frame within a 5 to 10 year time frame, then I would say dabble. You know, think about it. I mean, the opportunity that these guys are going after, the total addressable market these guys are going after, is immense and continuing to grow, right, with whatever they continue to build. So, and it's literally unlimited, in my opinion, due to the fact that they can build software customizable for any industry or any vertical. And I don't think people fully comprehend that yet. In terms of, for me, I'm not, because it's already currently my second largest holding. And, you know, to me, it's a pretty decent, it's actually more than 10% of my net worth at this point, as with another company. And so in that respect, individual stocks are starting to get pretty heavy in my total ownership level. Am I going to sell? No, but I would probably concentrate on, let's just say, the S&P 500 personally right now. There's other positions that I might sell out of, like leverage positions like TQQQ. I've contemplated. I actually had a good conversation with a gentleman who's in the chat every once in a while, Kev Dog. It might not be a bad opportunity for me to get out of some of the leverage stuff, considering we're so high up on the market already, that, you know, I could kind of keep it safe in the S&P 500, and that if there is a pullback, then I can re-enter some of the leverage stuff. But that's a broader discussion and not necessarily what you asked. So I'll rephrase.
How about you, Amit?
Yeah, so this is a conversation we had in our chat today. I think there will be other opportunities to get Palantir probably below 40. I mean, unless we normalize 40 and then like 40 is the new 20. But if there is a long-term time horizon and we believe this stock is worth $500 billion to $700 billion, maybe $1 trillion. Carp things that can get to $1 trillion. Then yeah, 40. I mean, we're looking at more than a 10x from 40, right? Now you got to have a time horizon in there to have the perspective. But I think if you are DCAing into a couple of companies and that is your portfolio and maybe the index like the S&P, then I don't think it's crazy to dabble here. The broader question, and the other reason I think 40 is not that insane to buy that, even if, there might be some short-term pullbacks, is Teal and Carp have sold over $1 billion worth of stock in the past 2 weeks, and the stock is up. So what is your guys' take on that? Because that doesn't happen a lot in the stock market where insiders can dump that much that quickly, and anyone in the chat can dump their shares at a better price than Teal and Carp dumped it at, just given the nature of how the stock went up. Do you think that they're dumping it to people that are buying it and holding it for a long time, aka institutions? Because I don't think retail can buy 30 million shares from Carp and Teal. It doesn't feel like retail has that type of liquidity. So
didn't we have this conversation last weekly? I mean, yeah, we got some more sales since then, perhaps, but
so institutional ownership is still 44%. I think someone posted that this weekend. That was updated like 2 days ago.
Do you know how that is sourced? Because typically you get 13F filings every quarter. How do they track it on a?
It's on the terminal. I don't know. The terminal is the terminal. Usually it tends to be
like a best guess, I guess. Yeah.
I think the toots are buying, dude. I think they're buying this thing because I mean, someone put in an order today for 15 million. Like, yeah, maybe there's some retail whales that are doing that, but more likely than not, these are people that have discovered the story. The story is exciting to them. They want to get exposure to the story, and they're diving in. And then I think when you discover the story and like you actually go deep on the ontology and all that stuff, and that sounds great. Then you look at the leadership, and then I think they get a whiff of Carp, and they start like thinking, like, holy crap, is this the next Steve Jobs? Like, I think the media coverage is expanding. All of that's happening at a time where they get into the S&P 500 and they've re-accelerated growth. And I don't think you could ask for a better set of catalysts that are compounding on each other all at once.
No, I think that's the only way that Teal would have been able to sell is into institutional strength. I mean, granted, he sold $1 billion, but I mean, that's still a pretty decent chunk of the total market cap of the organization. So to be able to absorb that and still hit 40, I think you have to have some sort of institutional buying. And I think you'll see once a lot of this institutional buying is done, you'll see a pullback. I anticipate of 10% or maybe even more. But I still believe in the company long term. I think it's nice to be able to have that validation that, and like 90 billion might be stretched here, right? I'll just be blunt. But when I was buying into the company, back when it kind of IPO'd at $15 to $20 billion back in 2020, literally just hit the 4-year anniversary, believe it or not. I was always thinking that this could be a $250 billion company in kind of like a low case, right? I was always very optimistic about the organization. And I was kind of like, I was like, my reference case is about 500. And I think we could hit $1 trillion, right? And this is back, literally in 2020 timeframe. And so my thought process was, back then it's like, we had 1.5 billion shares. I bought $10,000 worth. And I was like, I honestly think that this could go to be, a couple $100,000 position. And here I am, with almost a $200,000 position. It feels pretty good. I think my biggest problem is that I didn't buy more. And I very might well, depending on what other things I sell, I think I'm continuing to shrink the total amount of positions that I have. And it goes to show, like, if you can afford it and you honestly are convicted, this is a company that, to me, it's no longer needing babysitting. The price will go up, the price will go down, but now it's just about delivery and execution and checking in quarterly. You can sleep well at night owning this fucking thing. And that's the beauty of it, is like, I think 3-4 years ago when everyone was like, it's going to bankruptcy. And, now that you have a little bit of that hate and risk removed, and that you're very profitable and you're continuing to grow at, 20 to 30% year-over-year growth, you could sleep well at night. And now it's just about, what is the market valuing it today? It's not about, is the company going to be around? The company's damn well going to be around. It's embedding themselves in some of the most important businesses and governments around the world. So anyway, I know I'm just speaking kind of in circles, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the carp selling, for example.
By the way, real quick before you go, guys, the StreamYard is in the chat. If you want to hop on and leave a comment, say anything, ask a question, feel free to join. Go ahead.
Let's take carp, for example. Can you even imagine a scenario where carp, on a personal level, would need to enrich himself further? Why would carp need capital? He lives a frugal life out in a cabin. He goes mountain hiking. Like, he's not out there looking to buy a bigger and bigger yacht for as he grows those billions. I mean, I have a hard time imagining any scenario where carp is like, okay, it's time to lock in those billies and like, what's he gonna do with the cash? Like, Palantir is his life. So using the term dumping for carp, I don't know if that's correct. Now, given that none of us has really the patience to actually look at the exact details of the compensation plans laid out for these, all the details surrounding it, it's very complex. The stock price has implications on that, and I mean, there are so many factors, so no one really looks at it. So we can only speculate based on not doing our homework. But yeah, I have a hard time seeing any scenario where carp would feel like, okay, stock has run up, time to dump. I think it's more probably in line with something that's been scheduled, like it has been historically. I mean, he was also selling at 8, 7, so I'm not too worried about that, especially because when I invest, my intrinsic valuation doesn't have an input for, okay, did carp or teal sell recently? No, I just look at what the company is gonna do, and I derive what the intrinsic value is from that. So to me, it doesn't really matter. But even if I look at it like from a outside point of view, like carp, what does it need 2 more billions for 3? Like what?
Dude, I don't think carp gives a shit about money. Palantir
exactly.
I think he's literally selling because A, his financial team is like, hey, you got to risk mitigate here. B, he has to pay a ton of taxes, and C, he might have some personal stuff. But he's not buying a yacht, or anything like that. He's not buying Twitter, So it's like, I agree with you. Here's a good question, and we got a guest backstage, so let me bring him on, and we'll start with this question with the guest who's backstage because I think that'll be a good question. Dougie Dulles, what's up, Doug?
How's it going, everybody?
Going very well. For those that don't know, Doug's a good friend of the channel, so thank you for joining Palantir Weekly. Here's the question to you, Doug. This was actually an interesting topic this whole week. Tesla hit 400 October 2021, then retraced about 40% in the next 5 months. A lot of people have been saying, hey, this feels like Palantir's Tesla October 2021 moment inside of October 2024. What is your perspective on that? Do you think there's a 40% retracement coming? And do you think it is trading at levels that were unsustainable like Tesla was when it was 400 in 2021?
There's always a 0.618 retracement coming. So it's possible. The difference between this is the whole world was going crazy for Tesla hitting 400. Like, we were locked in our homes and there was nothing else to do but trade stocks and follow the news. Most people have still never heard of Palantir. People heard of Tesla. Like, people knew there was this a little electric car company. They thought that the EVs were still dumb and stupid and not powerful. They were little go-karts. People don't even know what this is yet.
Yeah.
I've told you about my job at not the same UDOC, but another UDOC. Not Matt's UDOC, but another UDOC. And I was just typing it in the chat. We just finished a project this week where we had 4 engineers spend 2 months scrubbing through all of our drawings for the pipeline facilities to make a list of all the pressure vessels because they have to be inspected. Look at the Palantir's developer video on the PNIDs. Not only does the software automate finding every piece of equipment, not like we were just doing the pressure vessels. The software now does everything, the valves, the pumps, the pressure vessels, the tanks, the piping circuits, everything. It connects them to the ERP so you can pull the data directly from the ERP, and connects it to the live monitoring, like vibration or analysis software.
It's magic.
In a matter of hours. It's magic. So you just took 4 engineers doing 5% of that task. Took 2 months each. That's 8 man-hours of a asset integrity engineer. And Chad, yeah, that blew my mind. I watched it, and the first thing I did is I sent it to my manager. I've been trying to get them.
Well, when did you watch it? Was that recently or a while ago?
It was Friday when I signed up for the
DEF CON stuff. Okay.
The developer. Yeah. And I that was the first video I looked at, and I was like, oh, I have to send this to my manager right now. Like, people have to see this.
So Doug, when did you start investing in Palantir?
I don't remember the year.
It's been a couple years though, right?
Yeah, it's been a couple years. I mean, I was in it in the high 20s on the way down.
What was your initial thesis then, and how would you say the thesis has evolved to today?
My initial thesis then was they had just put out a I forget what con it was, but it was like it might have been Investor Day or something like that. It was about an hour-long video where they were showing like Gotham, and I was like, "Wait, you mean this is in Hollywood? This is real? Oh, I'm buying this."
So this
isn't fake. This is real.
Yeah,
I'm buying this.
You saw the defense capabilities, and that's what attracted you originally. Okay, and then
because instantly I thought of my job in the industrial and commercial sector, and was like, oh well, we have way more equipment, and that all is going to have to talk to each other, and you're going to remove all the people and remove all the decisions and all the questions, and how you have like the maintenance group doesn't know what the inspectors are doing, and the inspectors are just writing reports, and they're just going and sitting in files for forever, and no one's ever reading them. And then the maintenance people don't know what maintenance tasks have to be planned at the outage. Just from a industrial maintenance concept, at refineries and chemical plants and pipelines and shipping yards, and just like the world economy that could use this alone. What I was automatically just seeing it do in the military sense blew my mind. And it was like, well, I don't care what the price is. This company is going to be at the heart of every company in the world, because if you're not using this technology, you're done. You're cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your thesis has gone from what they did in the military to, oh my God, everywhere is where this is going.
I think I got that same feeling when, so I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the magnitude is about right. The initial Investor Day presentation that came out in like August or September of 2020, pre-direct listing, had about like 18 different verticals that they were going after. And within a year or so, it went to like plus 50. And I don't even know now what amount they would even consider the amount of industry sectors or whatever that they're in. I would anticipate it's every one that you can think about. But it just goes to show to me, how important this software is and how moldable it is to create and get outcomes that you want. Right. And I think it's so completely different than any other way that I've thought about software. Anytime I pick up a Microsoft product, it's basically like, well, this is the product, try to fit whatever you want to do and use it however best you see fit. Versus Palantir literally says like, look, what do you need to get done? And we'll create a user interface, we'll create an application, we'll create whatever you need and tailor it to however or whatever outcome you need to get to in the simplest and most efficient way possible. So it's literally re-imaging how you would create software or operating systems for literally any business. And to me, like I saw it firsthand at UDOC, and it was just like, there's no way this is like a real thing, right? And then I started to see that they weren't just doing it at UDoc, because I mean, we were one of the first few commercial companies. They started doing it here and there and another place and another place. And I'm like, holy shit, like these guys are legit. And they're so humble. They're so smart. They're so accommodating and trying to really help you in any sort of shape or form. These guys are super passionate. And that was what, for me, I was just like, I was done. I was sold.